Welcome to another video in our series on the fundamentals of paramedic practice. In this video, we'll discuss professional and ethical aspects in paramedic practice, including codes of conduct, expectations of the public and the profession, talking to the media, communication techniques, and diversity. Let's start with codes of conduct. A code of conduct is a documented set of standards for the expected performance and behaviour by a professional within their given role and their community. Codes of conduct are dictated by employers, professional bodies such as Paramedics Australasia, and regulatory bodies such as a registration board, and they also include paramedic competency standards. As a student, APC sets out guidelines for your performance and behaviour during their clinical practice workshops and clinical placements. The APC Code of Conduct can be found in the student workbook. Additionally, there is a National Code of Conduct for all healthcare professionals, both registered and non-registered. This document outlines a variety of topics ranging from professional conduct to consent, record keeping and professional misconduct. You can access more information on your state government's health website. Confidentiality is a component of your code of conduct. It is essential that emergency health workers and students always maintain the confidentiality of patients. You must never disclose patient-sensitive information to others, unless with other medical professionals who are directly dealing with that patient, as in the form of a handover. Therefore, it is inappropriate to discuss this patient with your fellow colleagues unless they are also caring for the patient. If you wish to discuss aspects of the patient's case for educational purposes, you must gain consent from the patient while also withholding any identifying information about the patient. For example, you could talk about a middle-aged man who fell down the stairs, rather than John Smith from number 1 Jones Street who fell down the stairs. Regarding social media, most workplaces will have policies to guide your conduct. Generally speaking, all healthcare workers should avoid posting anything regarding their work activities online. Some workplaces also request that you do not indicate your employment status at all on your personal profiles. Any disclosures or discussions on social media can lead to dismissal in many workplaces. You must also be mindful of voicing medical-based opinions online. For example, registered nurses are not permitted to comment on the vaccination debate on social media. Now let's discuss expectations of the public and the profession. Both the public and the profession itself expect a minimum standard of care from emergency health workers in their practice. You are required to be committed to the national health priority areas and be guided by the Australasian competency standards. As healthcare evolves, your role will change, and it is important that you adjust your performance accordingly. Generally, the public holds healthcare professionals in very high regard. Paramedics have been voted one of the most trusted professions for many years. Therefore, it is important that you take pride in your role and in your conduct. Always act in a professional manner in public. Use language that is appropriate to represent your profession and avoid giving out medical advice in public, but rather direct people to their general practitioner. Now let's discuss talking to the media. Emergency health workers may be approached by members of the media for a variety of reasons, whether it be for a community relations comment on a recent incident or special event, or to acquire a representative statement. If you are ever approved to speak to the media, please ensure that you adhere to the privacy and confidentiality legislation and policies. Also ensure that you maintain sensitivity to the topic and to your audience. Consider who may be listening or watching your interview, and ensure that your language and disclosure is appropriate for this audience. Make sure that you conduct a fact check prior so that you have the correct information and maintain professionalism at all times. Now let's discuss communication techniques. Communication is a fundamental aspect of the emergency healthcare role. Communication is a multifaceted exchange involving a message sender and a receiver in verbal and non-verbal aspects. We communicate with so much more than simply words. When speaking with patients, colleagues and superiors, pay attention to your tone, posture, volume of speech, eye contact, facial expressions, and the appropriate use of gestures, and adjust your style of communication for the individuals that you're speaking with. Use clear and direct messaging with non-ambiguous language. Use appropriate, respectful, and effective body language that matches your tone and volume. Consider adjustments to your communication style depending on age and culture, and confirm with the receiver that they have understood your message and meaning correctly. Communication also involves active listening skills, whereby you listen to the specific information delivered by the individual and use confirming language and gestures to indicate that you have understood their meaning. Let's talk about barriers to communication. There are many potential barriers in communication. HALTs, or H-A-L-T-S, represents factors that can impair communication. That is, if the message sender or receiver is hungry, angry, late, tired, or stressed. I'm sure we can identify with many of those. This is because it changes the attitude with which you are sending or receiving the message. Communication can also be more difficult depending on the attitude or approach of the sender or receiver, including hierarchical differences. Simple things such as background noise and bystanders can make communication more challenging. Also, communication with individuals with cultural and language differences can complicate the situation, as the intention of the message sender may not be received in the same way. And finally, factors such as pain and illness affect the way a message is sent and received, which is something healthcare workers will deal with often. In the line of duty, it is your responsibility to break down the barriers of communication to achieve optimal patient care. Now let's talk about communication to diffuse conflict. There is no one-size-fits-all solution to communication, as every situation and every individual will be different. Emergency health workers must be self-aware of the barriers that you may cause, as well as being situationally aware of the barriers caused by others, so that you can circumnavigate these effectively. You will likely encounter conflict on a regular basis. Patients' concerns are usually regarding their treatment, such as pain relief, and their expectations of healthcare, such as response times and wait times at the hospital. These factors are further exacerbated by the pain and illness the patient is currently suffering, but also from misinformation of the knowledge about the role of emergency health workers and the care that they were likely to receive. To ensure your own safety, you must learn conflict management and de-escalation techniques. Employ active listening skills, reassuring the patient that you understand their concerns and that you are doing everything in your power to address them. Use non-aggressive verbal and non-verbal body language, like a soft, low tone, open palms with hands clearly visible to the patient, and understand facial expressions. Use appropriate eye contact, bearing in mind that excessive eye contact can sometimes be offensive or aggressive to some cultures. The most important thing you can do to diffuse conflict with the patient is to acknowledge that you understand the issue that they have voiced and suggest solutions to resolve the issue. Now let's talk about diversity. Australia is a diverse nation. As a healthcare worker, you will encounter a rich diversity of culture, language, religion and faith systems, sexual and gender identity, disability, age, worldview, and healthcare expectations. Certain patients may expect instant healthcare, and some may be opposed to modern healthcare methods. In dealing with all members of the public, emergency healthcare workers must exhibit cultural and diversity-safe behaviours. This means non-discriminatory and non-judgmental behaviour and equal treatment for all individuals. It is your professional responsibility to utilise tools to aid in overcoming diversity barriers to achieve the best outcomes for the patient. This could include the use of translator services, consulting a community elder, or adjusting treatment based on the person's spiritual needs. That's a brief introduction to professional and ethical aspects of paramedic practice. Be sure to check out our other videos in this series before attending clinical workshops or clinical placement. Thanks for watching.